Hi, everyone. My name is Luis Valdez, and I am the Executive Director of the 3MF Consortium. And I'm here today with a good friend of mine, John Howard from Get3DSmart. John has a long history and influential career in the printing business, not only 3D printing, but he was also a driver of standardized print formats for the 2D printing industry. John recently published a blog post about the 3MF, highlighting the similarities between 3MF and the PDF and how 3MF is growing as a new de facto 3D print format. And I'm really, really happy to welcome him to join our conversation today. Hi, John. Nice to see you again. Can you introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your company?
Yeah, thanks, Luis, for having me on today. My name is John Howard, and I'm the CEO of Get3DSmart. We're a consultancy that helps companies identify and capitalize on big opportunities in 3D printing. I spent a long time, 20 plus years in the 2D printing industry, especially evangelizing new software and file formats like PDF, and got in the 3D printing industry about 7 or 8 years ago, and have seen so many similarities between that digital transformation and what's happening in additive manufacturing today.
Very good, very good. John, I prepared a few questions for you here for us to talk about that topic. And the first one will be about what do you see as the primary benefit of a standardized print format for the additive manufacturing industry?
I think in the short run, it's primarily about transaction cost. Whether you're running a job in-house or using a service bureau, there's a certain amount of fixed cost involved. So a standard file format, a comprehensive file format, can help reduce some of the friction between the producer and the consumer. In the longer term, I think it's more future-proof. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with manufacturers who have an old drive somewhere with CAD files that they can't access or use because those files are multiple generations old. So in the short term, I think it's about helping companies and service bureaus and others reduce their costs. And in the longer term, I think it's about getting accessibility to files now and in the future.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Now, when you look at 3MF, what would you say are the top benefits versus traditional 3D print formats?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, it's just so much more comprehensive. You know, STL is pretty limited. It communicates file geometry, and that's about it. With 3MF, we can start talking about multiple materials and multiple colors, in addition to being able to, communicate the nesting for a specific printer. That translates into savings, both in project management and in job preparation. And those savings are amplified whenever you start to look at an application and say, I want to reprint it on a regular basis, or I want to print the application on demand, or maybe even the Holy Grail, I want to be able to decentralize the manufacturing of a specific print application and know that when I reprint it, wherever I print it and on what device, and if I print it on the same device, that I'm going to get similar results. I think that's a big opportunity in the short term.
So what kind of industry players would you say can benefit the most from the 3MF format?
Yeah, we'll stick with kind of the flavor of the article in our conversation thus far. So I'll talk a little bit about service bureaus and then designers. From a service bureau standpoint, it's all about transaction cost. You know, there's a certain amount of cost, whether you produce in-house or outside, of getting a job through the system. Capturing specifications, getting the files, correcting errors, all the things that go along with that. If it costs the shop $75 to do that, to move that job through the order, and their average order value is $250, they're not making a lot of money. But if they're able to automate those transaction costs, those fixed costs, and drive them down to, say, $15, well, then a fire hose of smaller orders starts to make a lot of sense. So 3MF combined with better software helps them get there. It's an automation play. Designers also benefit, and it's really for them, it's again about those time and cost savings. But in addition to that, they get the advantage of control, of knowing they can include their specifications and details in the print file itself. So the specifications travel with the file. From their standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. But more importantly, in industries like healthcare and defense, where there's a lot of regulation and privacy concerns, the security features of 3MF can be a huge advantage and help unlock some of those applications that previously hadn't been considered because of all of those requirements.
I totally agree with that. In fact, that's been the core of the work that the 3MF Consortium has done in the last 5 years. But now thinking about the next 5 to 10 years ahead, what do you see as future directions that 3MF should go?
Well, as I mentioned in my article, I'm bullish on crypto. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. As you know, folks may have seen recently, these non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, are really white hot. In that scenario, people upload their text or images or graphics, and yes, even 3D printable files, and to a blockchain, and sell them for a premium based on the security and authenticity of the files. Being able to upload STLs and renderings might get you to the point where you could publish an NFT, but really that robustness of 3MF, the security and the authenticity that's kind of built into the file format, would be a big advantage for someone willing to, and able to sell an NFT and potentially help them sell it for a higher price and drive better long-term value.
Very good. Hey, John, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to hear you today and have you share all your expertise with our audience. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Luis, for having me on today. It was a pleasure. And I look forward to working with you and others in the additive manufacturing industry to help drive this standard forward.